Hey, rock stars, if your fab shop's overwhelmed or your supplier's missing deadlines, that's not just frustrating, it's costing you real money. That's why you call HyperFab. Based in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada, and trusted across North America, they deliver custom metal fabrication for industries where precision and speed matter most. Construction, oil and gas, manufacturing, and agriculture. From fiber laser cutting and CNC bending to welding, assembly, and finishing, they do it all in-house with fast turnarounds, tight tolerances, and no handoffs. One prototype, full production, no problem. HyperFab shows up when others can't and delivers when others don't. Head to www.hyperfab.com or call Colin Harms at 1-403-308-3308. Fabrication without compromise. That's the HyperFab edge. Welcome to episode 284 of the Business Development Podcast. And today we're joined by Adam Kimmel, an engineer turned business development strategist with over 20 years of experience and 12 global patents. We dig into how technical experts can master connection, communication, and growth in a world that often speaks a different language. Stick with us. You are not going to want to miss this episode.
The great Mark Cuban once said, "Business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal." And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Hello, welcome to episode 284 of the Business Development Podcast. And today, it is my absolute pleasure to bring you Adam Kimmel. Adam is a seasoned engineering and business development professional with over 20 years of experience in R&D, product innovation, and strategic growth. With dual degrees in chemical and mechanical engineering, he has earned 12 global patents and honed his expertise as a senior principal R&D professional before founding Ask Consulting Solutions. Today, Adam combines his technical acumen with a passion for driving growth, specializing in helping automotive, renewable energy, and industrial manufacturing companies craft targeted strategies to build strong pipelines, refine value propositions, and achieve sustained success. What sets Adam apart is his unique ability to speak fluent engineer while delivering results-driven marketing and business strategies. Whether he's launching products that deliver 30% cost savings or creating content that ranks number one and drives measurable performance gains, Adam is laser focused on helping his clients stand out in competitive markets. With a rare blend of technical expertise, strategic vision, and a collaborative approach, Adam Kimmel is not just a partner in growth, he's a catalyst for it. Adam, it is an honor to have you on the show today.
Holy cow. Thrilled to be here. I came for the intro because the intros have become legendary, so I appreciate that. But I think you captured it. Yeah, great to be here.
It's a pleasure, man. You know, we've actually known each other at this point for I think like 6 months, something along those lines. We initially connected over the show. We've had like a discovery call for coaching. We've done all sorts of stuff. And dude, you're an intriguing person. I'm really excited to do this with you today.
Well, me too. And I think when you find someone that thinks in a similar way, there's this, I need to get more of that person for the show. I think the perspectives that you bring and just the passion for BD is something that we both share. So yeah, thrilled to have finally got to do this.
I really enjoyed meeting you. And the reason being is actually you were the only fractional BD company that I had met outside of my own company when we first connected. And I was like, oh, thank God, someone else who thinks the same way as I do.
Yeah, it's something I think will start to gain more traction. That phrase fractional BD was one that I hadn't heard a lot. And so I have a website and I thought, well, I'm going to write a pillar article to just really capture my point of view. And it ranked first like the day after I wrote it. So
Yeah,
that says that there's room for this and that there's interest and traction in the movement. So yeah, it's inspiring really to see it.
absolutely, absolutely. And you have an incredible background, by the way. Like
It's
very
pretty
different.
diverse. Yeah.
Very different for any other BD person that I have met in the past, to be honest. Me and you talked about it before the show. I've always said business development chooses you. And I think it's interesting, but it shows you too.
Well, it did. And I mean, just to kind of unpack it a little bit, I was a cube dweller for most of my career. I would get these complicated, product design or system design requests, and I would sit there and calculate using, ANSYS models and numerical modeling and things. I'm sitting there calculating, and it got to be where I could calculate for the next 15 or 20 years, or I could push myself to really make an impact. And I think a lot of the R&D groups I've been a part of, they were rationalized as, okay, well, what's the return on this? Do we want to invest in R&D? And so I realized that getting close to the customer and the business goals is really what you need to do to make sure that you're able to demonstrate the value that you can provide. So that's what pushed me to look elsewhere. And then I just realized that people weren't doing BD very effectively at all. And I saw an opportunity to improve this and to level up, not just, the results, but also the process and how people feel going through it and the authenticity of that relationship that gets created.
I love that. I love that. No, business development has been extremely misunderstood. Extremely. And you know what? We haven't done ourselves any favors. You look at books on sales, you look at books on marketing, there's a million of them. You look for specific things on BD, there's nothing out there, which is why I started this show, man. I realized early on that when I got into BD, there was nothing for me. And if I could get out there and share this information with the world, I would help one other young 23-year-old Kelly down the line who's getting into it and needs that extra help. But you're absolutely right. As business development professionals, we haven't done ourselves any favors. We haven't taught the younger generations. There's been this like protection of knowledge in business development for a long time. And it is unnecessary. And I'm hoping that with time, we're able to better educate people on what is business development. And more importantly, what isn't it? Because I think it gets roped into everything. It gets roped into, sales and closing. It gets roped into account management. It's like, guys, that is not what business development is. But in all fairness, how are they supposed to know?
Well, I think not anymore. I think maybe in the old days, it was really closely tied with sales. And I got the sense that there was this sales viewed it as, their role was new business with existing customers and BD was, new business with new customers. And I think that's still true, but the approach was a sales driven, totally outbound pavement pound versus some of the more savvy is not the right word, but just some of the more modern ways that people learn about things and how they frame their businesses. That's not the same as it used to be. And I think BD is the discipline that's helping to shift that for businesses to get their minds thinking in the way that their customers actually want to buy from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, me and you both know COVID changed everything too, right?
Sure did.
That pavement pounding is just not the way that we do it. It's not efficient anymore, right? There's
Not
way
at all.
better ways to do it. So, you know what I mean? Even if you're still doing it those old ways, there are much better ways to handle BD. Although, like you said, the job is still the same for the most part, right? But my keyword is always new. The secret to BD is new. If new isn't part of it, it's probably not BD.
That's right. Yeah, it's a good way to differentiate it for sure. Yeah, love it.
Adam, bring me into your incredible career, dude. How did you end up on this background? You have over 12 global patents that you've been a part of. That is incredible. Take me back to the beginning. How did you end up on this path?
Well, when I went to Penn State in Pennsylvania for my undergrad, and chemical engineering was something that was a passion of mine ever since I took my first chemistry class. So it was, what are things made of? How do they work? It just fascinated me. Chemistry was a weed out class for most people I know. So I don't know, it just was a passion. So I said, well, how can I do this to help the world? So climate, environment, all these things became kind of I always call it the professional mission. So when I'm not with my family, with my kids, what am I doing to help as many people as I can? And I view climate as a chemistry person as my way to do that. So I graduated, got a job in sales engineering due to the economy in 2003 and things, and moved to Chicago and realized that, chemistry on its own isn't necessarily a diverse enough skill to help me get revenue and income from it. So I got a master's degree in mechanical engineering to figure out how the components were put together and things. And so that's where some of the innovations started to happen. I would get a request and I would have to use some of my chemical background, some of the mechanical background to invent a product to deliver a solution. And some of those solutions were the result of some discovery I would do with the customer. Okay, sort of like the order taker model, right? In any business was like, okay, here's if I was making a heat exchanger, please make a heat exchanger that delivers this output. Sounds good. Why do you think you need that heat exchanger? What problem is this solving? And if we deliver this, can I see the rest of the system? Are there other components there? And so through that, one step back would say, all right, well, you have 3 heat exchangers. One of them you ask us to design and quote, but we could combine 2 of these and make a system that has fewer components, more system content for my company, but a lower overall system cost for you. So it's a complete win-win. The idea was great. There's 3 or 4 patents that come out of a situation like that just due to discovery, question asking, and not responding to transactionally an opportunity that's brought to you. So that's where a lot of the innovation came from, was this mindset I had developed early on to say, well, why do you want to do it that way?
Yeah. Sometimes it is a big picture, right? And, I find a lot of times we are looking for that expert advice. We are looking for someone who knows more than we do to come in and say, hey, you could probably do this a little differently, right? Like, as much as we like to think we have all the answers, I know I don't.
Well, right. And that's the importance of partnership too. You can't ask a question like that of a customer you don't have a good relationship with. If it's a transactional relationship, they're going to be guarded. So that's the other thing too. I think it's important is just to know that, they don't have all the answers. You don't, but maybe the combination of that discussion, and maybe there's another colleague on either end that can come in and really get to the root of the problem. And it's that. So that's the benefit of having a relationship behind, a work transaction, I'll say.
Totally. So, keep me going. Obviously, you're working in engineering, you're doing design engineering, you're doing some pretty incredible things. How does that lead to marketing? Like, man.
Oh, man. Yeah. So there were, right around the time of 2008, the recession came. There was a layoff at my company. So I took another job in consumer products. And that was really my first exposure to marketing. So when I was an undergrad, marketing was a swear word. Engineers made fun of marketing. It's too easy. What do you call somebody that flunks out of engineering, a marketer, that kind of stuff, t-shirts, whatever. But engineers were so insulated that, I started to learn the impact marketing can really have, and the fact that these insights from the field should be informing what the engineers did. I think engineers as a discipline, we have this view that we know a ton, we have a lot of training, we'll tell them what they want.
Yeah.
I don't know on what planet that's ever worked for anyone. You have to ask the customer what they want and develop and work on the problem that they want to solve. And so that was my exposure to it through consumer products. And then eventually I started kind of doing some freelance writing on the side because I would have to explain some of these innovations to patent attorneys. And, there's one way to write for an attorney. And then I would get this request of, well, my business leader needs to understand this to approve the capital or something like this. So write a description of this. So it started as like slide decks, but then it kind of went into technical articles and thought leadership. And then that would help them craft the point of view on a new product line. So that's where I got started with writing. So I kind of learned the value of marketing, the value of writing, and how that could translate for technical disciplines. So that's how it started.
That's amazing. I want to talk to you a little bit about that because I have had the pleasure working in oil and gas to work with some incredible engineers over my career. And I can tell you, I've been surprised, to be honest. I've been surprised by many of them with their ability to communicate when they do finally get put in the room and have those conversations. But I know that for many of them, they are introverted. I am introverted as well. So for me, that's great. But I know I've struggled with putting myself out there, with dealing with performance anxiety, with stage fright, with fear, with meeting anxiety, you name it, man. Like, been through it all, imposter syndrome, the whole gamut. I've been through it all. And, we talked about this before the show. I've definitely learned over time that I need to really tackle the things that scare me. And we talked about this before, that in 2025 here, I'm really trying to double down on video. Why? Because video scares the bejesus out of me. And it's funny too, because people say, dude, you're a podcaster. Like, you have 2 years of podcasting under your belt. By the time this show comes out, almost 3 years of podcasting. Yeah, I know, but it is different. Like this medium is still not the same as video. And even though we share clips, it still feels like a conversation between two people as
Mm.
opposed to that like transcend the lens that video really does, right? It's like it's a different level of vulnerability. And I don't think people quite realize that. But I guess my question to you is, as somebody who I know is very similar to myself in that way, how have you been able to overcome some of your stage fright, some of your fears, maybe performance anxieties?
Yeah, and that, just to emphasize, it is very real. I mean, somebody that sits in a cube, this is a real safe place. I'm just surrounded by my math. Like, this is nice. To push yourself outside of that is, yeah, you're going to have to do things that are uncomfortable. And so the first thing I learned right away is if something scares you to the point where you're like, oh, I don't know if I can handle it, it's because you know you should do it. And so I have this approach to just run as fast toward that thing as I can possibly do. And is it going to go, great? Not at all, but you can't do it twice before you do it once. And so this is this continuous iteration and improvement loop of, okay, well, that experience didn't go as I wanted to. Here's the ways I didn't love it. Here's what I would change if I had it to do again, then do it again. And so you just kind of keep coming at it like that. And one of the things that when dealing with engineers, I've noticed is that they like to listen first. So they sit back in a meeting and let either the business people talk or the marketing people. They're listening to every word. They're formulating their point of view and their thought process. So getting their engagement is critical, but they need to feel safe to engage. And so I think some of those anxiety moments, for engineers that aren't as willing, like we are, to just bust through the door head first, how do you warm them up? How do you engage them? And I found that asking questions about their background, about their, approach to developing a product is a great way to just easily let them wade into the water before getting to the meat of the questions. By the end of the meeting, you have to kind of, okay, well, I get top of the hour, I got to jump, should we schedule a follow-up? Because they're in then, right? They're rolling, but getting them warmed up is the key. So I think, doing that yourself and then learning kind of some of those unlock communication techniques is a way that I've done it in the past.
Yeah, yeah. You need to build the connection, right? It's kind of what you're getting at here, especially if you're dealing with people who are introverted.
Right.
We're not automatically bought in, right? Like, I'm like you. I like to listen first and ask questions later. I like to understand before I respond, right? I don't want to look like an idiot. I think many people feel the same way. But yes, I agree completely. And I think that finding ways to connect is what separates great business development people from mediocre business development people, right?
Yeah.
I've been asked many times, if I'm interviewing somebody for a BD role, account management role, what do I want? And I typically say, you'll know in the first 5 minutes. Don't necessarily look at their degrees. Don't look at their background. Sit down with them, have a coffee, have a lunch. And if you like them in the first 5 minutes, you're on the right path. You're on the right path. These people know how to communicate. They know how to become likable, which I think is a really critical skill because what they are building is connection, and that is the job.
Yeah, I think and matching their pace is an important piece of that relationship building too. Like when you meet someone within that first 5 minutes, you'll gauge their style. Are they quiet? Are they loud? Are they fast paced? Are they reserved? Is there one topic that seems to be on their mind? I mean, let them talk about that topic. But I try to match that. So if they talk fast, let's go. But if they're more reserved, then I kind of are quieter and slower. And so that there's a comfort level in, I don't know, that I found that comes from that. And again, it's a feeling kind of energy in a meeting discussion, but that to know if it's done right, it's a feeling for sure. And there's no way to measure it. There's no way to plan it. It's just, how do I create an authentic connection with this person in a way that makes them feel safe?
Totally. And I think there's like a misconception in the world, not just in the business world, that BD people are all extroverted. And I would actually make the argument that there are more introverted BD people than there are extroverted BD people. And people like the introverted ones more anyway, because actually we're quiet, we ask good questions, we sit back, we listen, and we connect authentically. And I think, I did a show called Why Your Introversion is a Superpower. And I was talking about how there's a ton of benefits to being introverted in BD.
Yeah, I think active listening is the first, main way. But whenever I go to a trade show or something and I have to just be out there all the time, it's exhausting. Yeah. And so on the surface, it looks like, he's on and he's polished. I get back to the hotel room and just crash because the energy, it's so hard to get that energy up. And that's fine. I mean, I think it's okay to push yourself, but also to realize that, you can't just be something you're not 100% of the time. You have to, be the version of yourself that lets you, get the outcome you want while still being true to the way that you want to work. And if it's introversion, and I think a lot of BD people have expertise in areas outside of business. Like for me as an engineer, as an SME, I wouldn't want to be wrong. So if I spoke first and it was wrong, or I made a wrong assumption, you kind of feel, oh, maybe I'm not such an expert. And that's where how this imposter syndrome starts to build. So I think many technical experts like to listen just for that reason, to make sure that they lend their expertise in the right way, and that, they're right based on the way the discussion goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Me and you both know there's a lot of people who will take your path, who will be subject matter experts, who will be engineers, who will be all sorts of different positions. And one day, this little crazy thing called BD is going to jump up and someone's going to say, hey, you're pretty good at what you do. Have you ever thought about doing BD? I want you to talk about that transition itself for you. What was that like?
Yeah. I mean, I started doing BD before it was called that in my role. So I was, the request was really just to form relationships with the technical experts at automotive companies. So that's easy. I work with them all the time. I know their language. I mean, I say a lot that I speak fluent engineer. That's true. I can't turn that off, which my kids seem to hate. But anyway, it's made me a good technical expert. But I realized that the point of those relationships was to connect our company with the customer at deeper levels than just the commercial. They wanted technical alignment. They wanted, marketing and strategic marketing alignment. And so that's really where I started it. And I realized quickly that, I started looking into what is this called? Because it's not engineering anymore. It's not business executive anymore. What is this? And I started to learn that these relationships were really what BD was. And the more I learned about what I was doing and some of the things that, hey, I bet this would work well. Sure enough, kind of classical BD is exactly that, in terms of doing these active listening things, getting the pain points and crafting relationships based on customer interests, not based on what you think they want to hear. It was sort of a natural, I think, in terms of, form the relationship with technical. And then they said, hey, that worked really well. Could you do it with commercial? And so it's like, well, I'm going to just do it the same way. So hope it'll work. The language is a little different, the approach and the styles are very different, but the outcome is the same and the process is the same. So just find out what's important to them and, really why they were open to talk with you in the first place, and kind of drill into that further.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about, what it is like to create marketing material or market a highly technical thing. I think that that's something that a lot of people would struggle with, just from a standpoint of, especially if you're trying to market to engineers. And so for me, I'll tell you what I do, and you can tell me kind of how you handle it. I always say I know enough to be dangerous. So I've handled business development in that way. It's like, do I know the talking points? Yes. Do I know, the solutions this thing provides? And can I speak the lingo a little bit? Sure. Do I understand the background? No. That has been a disadvantage that I have had throughout my entire BD career, is that I don't have a technical background. What's really cool with you is that you have a technical background, which gives you the ability to speak to an engineer in a language that they understand, right? For me, the way that I've always solved that is when I come in and I work with a company, I say, hey, I know as much as I know. I'm really great at building connections. I can make the connections, but I need a technical expert that I can work with, that I can bring with me to these meetings to speak the technical lingo that I do not know. That hasn't held me back. That's worked out a lot, with the companies I've worked for. And most of them have understood. Obviously, Kelly Kennedy is a sales and business development guy, not an engineer, right? But talk to me a little bit, also, though, I haven't really worked with car manufacturing or anything like that, like highly technical things like you have worked with. Oil and gas is technical, sure, but most of the time what you're providing is a product solution or a service solution, a manpower solution or a parts product or something that's already designed. They know what they're buying. They've bought it a million times, right? There's not a lot of like brand new things. Talk to me a little bit about what it is like to market a new innovation, something that is like brand new that maybe you really do need to like talk to the nitty gritty about.
Yeah, I think my background is a little bit of a cheat code, because it earns me the right when I talk to an engineer to say we're peers. Rattle off some of those background things. It levels the playing field. They don't think I'm a commercial person. So that's been one area, but for something new that the market didn't ask for, what's the statistic? 2% of a market's in the position to buy at any point in time. So everybody else is creating the need. that they didn't know existed before the call. I think it starts with, what's the problem to solve? But for marketing, I always look at marketing as a story. What is the story that we're trying to tell, and why are we trying to tell it? So I enroll the SME in like, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Okay, here's the framework and the sort of the structure of the story I want to tell. One, what do you think about that? I would love to get your take. Two, what points do you think? I mean, I've got some questions, but as we go, like, how could we strengthen this using data? Because technical audiences absolutely insist on having data to support any claim or point that's made. They don't insist, but if they don't see one,
sure,
there's no credibility. And the SME is really well suited. They can rattle off oftentimes statistics or even rough numbers that are way more impactful than, and you can soften the wording, a range between or up to, these kind of words. But if there's a number attached to it, that really drives the point home. And that's how marketing and, the SMEs can really partner to do that. But they've got to understand the story and the outcome. Otherwise, they can go off of tangents in terms of their knowledge. They have too much knowledge, so you have to focus them and keep them within these guardrails. But just enrolling them in the process, I think, has been helpful. So it's not an adversarial interview interrogation situation. This is hey, like your point, I know some, even for me, I don't know about every industry.
Sure.
So here's what I know kind of from a tangential one. Help me from your chair support this argument more strongly. Yeah, that's the way I've approached it.
I love it. Yeah, like I said, like I've never been that like technical expert. I like to say, I know enough to be dangerous, right? When I work with a new client, I try my best to understand their product, their service. But what I typically kind of ask is like, what problem are we solving? What does this, if I'm hearing this, what product should I recommend, right? Typically, most of the time, it's actually not important. And so I make sure that I like let other BD people know, because people get really tied up and they're like, I don't know the products. I don't know them inside and out. And it's like, you don't need to be the technical expert. And I think a lot of BD people forget that. They think that I have to know more than even like the technical people at the company. But it's not true. You have to know enough to build interest, and you need to be able to communicate it in a way that your prospect can understand and obviously build their interest, right? If you can build interest, you can get to a meeting. And at the end of the day, that is what matters.
And that's really where I see the value of content with BD. I mean, I kind of have this view that BD historically has been outbound only. There was a trend over, 21, 22, where inbound was, can we just digitalize everything? Can we kind of hack our way to success and maybe set outbound to the side? I think what we're seeing now is money isn't plentiful everywhere anymore. People are scrutinizing spend and ROI and all those kinds of things. So the answer is probably a combination of both, where, yes, there's outbound human discussions, but then there's also inbound content to support the points in the meeting or to reinforce. A lot of times it'll be a lunch meeting or something like that. There won't be any PowerPoint or any slides or collateral.
Yeah.
So you can follow up with, hey, great to talk. Here were the follow-ups I saw. And by the way, here is an asset that we created to kind of talk a little bit more about that. Feel free to share this internally and let's have a follow-up call. So, I mean, content really enhances what sales does on the closing end of things. So for BD, our job, right, is to enable sales to be successful. If their hit rate's 100%, we're getting promoted. So good for us. So how can we do that? And I think content is a way to help sales, so they don't have to remember what we said. They can kind of use this asset to make that case for us as they continue down the close path.
I love that. I love that you touched on content in meetings. Dude, I am still a massive advocate for real brochures. Every company that I go and work with, if they don't have a real brochure ready, we are starting on that immediately, because I love bringing physical things with me to a lunch meeting. Like, I will always have my business cards. I will always have a physical brochure. And, we make sure that we design really high quality content. We can talk about that today because you're content experts. We can talk about like what is high quality content in 2025. But, I'm always making sure that we got something that's like visually appealing, that like speaks to their values and their mission and what they want to do. And it speaks to their different products. But the cool thing about bringing and I don't know why we don't do this. I don't know why somewhere along the line, someone said we don't need brochures anymore because they were crazy. But I can't tell you, every time that I go to a meeting without a brochure versus with a brochure, the meeting with the brochure goes better. Why? Because I can sit down at the beginning and say, hey, I brought this for you. It's great to meet you. Have a personal conversation. At some point in that conversation, they always open up the brochure and they'll be like, oh shit, I didn't know you do this. Let's talk about this because we actually need it. Like it happens every single time, Adam. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so for those of you listening right now who are saying you don't need brochures, trust me, you do. And I use brochures. I use digital brochures in my digital introduction stage of my process as well, right? Like extensively, because I know even if they don't necessarily respond to my message, there's a super high chance they're going to open that brochure I sent, read the first pages, and guess what? They are no longer cold contact. They are now warm contact. They know who I am, what I work for, and what my company sells.
Yeah, I think the trap, though, with any content like that, especially a brochure, is if you get to the point of, yes, just send me information and I'll come back to you, that's a problem. So it's got to be in addition to the personal connection and setting that next meeting. Because if the whole discussion ends at the brochure and then there to take the next step, that's not going to be effective enough. It needs to be a support tool versus here you go, kind of a send it into the ether and expect something to come back.
Exactly. So in my opinion, what we're doing is we're actually using the brochure as the introductory point. So I'm a huge fan of not selling. I hate selling. Selling is not what I want to do.
No.
I want to build human to human connection and I want to build interest. And so when I'm sending my introductions to a new person, so someone maybe I've just connected with on LinkedIn, I know that they're a prospect for one of the clients that I'm working with, I will just introduce myself. And I'll say, hey, I'm working with this XYZ company. They do some pretty incredible stuff. Check out this brochure and let's connect down the line. That's the level. And I kind of use it as that icebreaker. But you know what it does for me, Adam? It creates a warm introduction. It creates this thing where like they didn't know what company I worked with. They didn't know what my client did. And now when I inevitably reach out to them directly to ask for that meeting, it's no longer a cold call. It's a warm contact. They know who I am. They know what my company does, and they know why they would be interested in having that meeting. So it drastically increases the success rate of closing that introductory meeting where you can have that technical conversation.
Yeah, I think it kind of demonstrates some quality behind the initial words. I mean, you can go and promise a lot of things and state a lot of things, but a polished piece of content that has a website that they can go visit, that has details about the company, the product portfolios, like it's a nice way to build credibility passively on their schedule. Yeah, I totally agree.
And no one wants to be sold to, right? Like we keep forgetting. Everybody seems to think I get like 100 sales emails a day. It feels like via LinkedIn and via it's ridiculous. And here's the thing. Nobody is doing the critical thing first. You have to build credibility and trust before somebody is going to buy anything from you.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because people will say, well, no, I'll buy the latest Samsung phone when it comes out. I don't got to, but you're buying it because they've already built credibility and trust with you because you bought 10 before.
Yes.
Somewhere down that line, in the very beginning, somebody came up to you and said, hey, have you tried this new Samsung phone? It's incredible. So another human built trust with you in the very beginning. Your experience with that product reinforced that trust. And now, sure, you can go to the store, you can buy an iPhone, you can buy a Samsung phone and not even question it. You know it's going to be high quality. You know it's going to be great. But somewhere in that path, trust was established. And people forget that. People forget it takes a human to build that trust somewhere along the line. And people, the other question I get regarding this is, well, no, I bought software online. Sure. Yes, you did. So have I. However, how many video reviews did you watch before you bought that software? Because most of us have still watched video reviews. And guess what? That person established enough trust with you, or you established enough trust watching 3 to 5 video reviews to say, you know what? Those people liked it. I think I can make that choice, right? But we're forgetting, when you're just sending your marketing material or your rate guides or whatever over LinkedIn or over email without establishing a human to human connection first, you're skipping a very critical and vital step. And I think we're realizing that, but it's funny because it took me a while to realize that that's what was missing too. But that's it, dude. We have to establish trust, and trust takes people.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the reason to do both, is that trust is established via human. The content helps to reinforce it. And so then it kind of overcorrected into because the human part's hard. It's uncomfortable. We don't want to talk to people. And, I think we try to get away from having to do it and realize that that isn't effective. So it's got to be a hybrid approach. And you have to kind of earn the right to sell. I mean, if you do it right, it's natural. They'll ask you probably, versus you having to tell them, hey, this is how much it costs. They'll just be this natural, hey, that is interesting to me. It would solve a problem that I think is worth solving. Yeah. What does your solution give me? And then you're not necessarily competing. in a round of quotes or something because you've already done the work to establish the relationship. Then it's just a matter of price.
Well, you see companies now, and what they're trying to do is use as many passive strategies as possible to bypass the human interaction.
Right? I know.
And it doesn't work. Like, that's the thing. It's like, and it's funny because marketing agencies have done a great job. And I'm not, you know what? Marketing agencies are incredible. They do incredible things. I'm not knocking them at all. What they're doing is exactly what they were designed to do. But we as consumers have said, well, if we're paying for, let's call it $10,000 a month in digital ads, that's gotta have an ROI, right? So that's
Right.
spending that's gotta come back in $100,000 ROI. But that is not what it's designed to do. And people have like forgot that. What digital marketing on a mass scale, you know, whether you're talking billboards, whether you're talking TV, whether you're talking Google AdWords, sure, some of that is going to convert back. But the main job was to build brand recognition for your company. However, brand recognition does not translate into sales.
Right.
And people forget that, right?
Yeah, it's a part of it though. The brand needs to be, you know, you need to trust the brand.
They
but
work
then
hand in hand.
yeah, it's kind of like a gate. You cross the trust gate. Okay, the brand awareness is there. Okay, well then do they understand my problem? If that's crossed, then you kind of earn the right to move to the next one. But all these things work hand in hand, and yeah, it's harder. So yeah, if people try to bypass it, good news for the rest of us that don't, I think, because it looks so different when you have an interaction with somebody that you really have a genuine connection with versus everything else out there. It makes us stand out so much better.
Well, once again, let's go back to the Samsung analogy. Samsung has already created trust with me. So guess what? They can spend all tons of money on media, brand recognition, passive marketing strategies. Yeah, I'm going to buy the latest Samsung phone. But I established trust with Samsung a long time ago, right? In that case, it works incredible. I think, for consumer goods, things like that, with trusted, reputable companies that we know and trust, absolutely. It works incredible. It does translate into dollars and cents sales. However, I think if you're like a relatively unknown company or a B2B company that does, where relationship and repeat business is important, instead of spending all that money on digital marketing, you need to be spending that money on active marketing process, stuff like me and Adam do, where you're having, direct human to human interaction, people actually reaching out, building relationships on behalf of your company. That is what's going to lead to trust and, sales over time.
So as somebody that does digital marketing, I'll say, yes, agreed, but also don't forget the digital piece. I think for a while, people thought, well, we can just write SEO articles and get traffic to the website. More articles, more people, easy.
Yeah.
I've come to look at that as that's a channel. And so I think if you start generating trust, people have heard you, the next step they're going to do is try to find your presence online. So you've got to be able to get found when they want to find you. So I'm a big advocate for that. But again, as a channel, not as the entire strategy. I think that's the correction I think that 2024 has shown us.
Yeah, sorry. I agree with you completely on that. So you absolutely still have to have a digital presence. So
I was going to jump through the screen. Now, wait a minute. Don't forget digital.
No, you're right. No, you absolutely do. But I think for me, since the beginning of the show, I've always said your active marketing, like, your real human to human direct reach out should really be like 70 to 80% of your reach out. You still need that 20 to 30% on the digital side. You still need an incredible website. It still needs to be engaging. It needs to have video. It needs to be, short and to the point. It's got to be 2024 or 2025 level of what we expect for an online presence. Now, that also includes social media strategy, which is a relatively new one for a lot of companies. And they're struggling with how the hell do we leverage social media? And I'm working with a client right now who had never, the multi-millions, I think they do about $30 million a year in revenue. They never had to manage a social media strategy before. And now they're grappling with, okay, crap. None of us really want to do this. How do we do this, right? So we're learning how it all works. You're right. It goes in unison. But I think the missing component, and it's not missing because people don't know they need to do it. That's the funny thing, Adam. People know they need to build connection with people. People know they should be making more phone calls. They know they should be attending more meetings. They know they should be making more connections. But we're afraid, right? We're struggling with that because I think as a society, we hoped we could go digital and our phone would just ring and we could get all the orders in the world. But we forget, at the end of the day, we're humans. We require human to human interaction.
But I think it's a good thing for society, right? I mean, we don't want to have to just go only digital and not deal with people. I think as consumers, we want to be able to deal with the human, to have a relationship when we want. So then we need to be we should be willing to give the same in the other direction. I think we need to be willing to make ourselves available and give the time and effort, which, yes, it's harder and it does take more time. But yeah, I think that effort, we owe it to our customers to put that effort in to give them the best experience they can. I just think it's too easy to try to take a shortcut and you don't really deliver on what you promised and the relationship kind of sours and things go in a negative direction. It's just taking care of those details up front.
Yeah, I agree. The funny thing about it though, Adam, is that it's a shortcut, but it's not a shortcut because we don't know we need to do it. It's a shortcut because we're afraid, right?
Right.
Like we're afraid to make calls. We're afraid to make human to human interaction. We're afraid of being judged. We're afraid of making mistakes, right? Like if I ask somebody, why aren't you making your cold calls? They'll say, well, I don't want to look like an idiot. I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong ththing. It's fear. It's fear of other humans. It's fear of being perceived as like, oh, who's this idiot? Why are they? You made a mistake on that call, guys. I've made tens of thousands of calls. I still make mistakes. There are times when I make a pitch and I jumble all my words. Hell, there's times during podcasts where I jumble all my words and I get mush mouth. And I'm like, holy crap, mush mouth, right? Like it happens to all of us. You make the mistake and you move on, right? You shouldn't let your fear of making a mistake in a conversation, in an interaction, in a call, hold you back from that human to human interaction because you're losing more than you're gaining by not making that call.
And the good news about that is the more you do it, the better you get. The fewer mistakes come out. So it is a momentum thing anyway. And so that's just the encouragement and reason to keep going. You know, I think if something doesn't go well, the next time you know what to change. You've got some data you can correct and you know, just look, but make sure that you learn the lesson and don't just keep pounding the same nail if it's not landing.
I love that. And I think there's another thing, Adam, that they struggle with too. And they say, well, I'm going to make mistakes. Guys, I make mistakes. Like I make mistakes when I'm learning, you know, a new customer. What am I going to say if I don't understand the industry, if I don't understand the lingo? I make mistakes in the beginning. It takes time. Like, you know, like Adam just said, it takes time to learn how to say the right thing and to learn what order, what structure is going to work, right? But the only way you learn it is by trying and learning and trying and learning. And eventually you'll know exactly what to say. And guess what? You'll still make a mistake sometimes, right? Like we're humans. We make mistakes. And you know what the best thing about living in this time is, Adam? I think we're more accepting of authentic humanness than we ever have been before in history. And
yes, something I noticed about that is when you make a mistake, the response of the person you're talking to, they change into a human being. If you have this polished, formal, hands folded dialogue, and then you just blow something. One time I was talking with my hands at a lunch and I cleaned the cup off the table. It was across the room, and I was in the zone, right? I was going, and I just froze. I'm like looking at the cup and looking at the person. I'm like, I just started laughing, just like you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, okay, can I call timeout and go get my cup? And it changed the whole dynamic. It changed the entire dynamic. I mean, this is a customer I've worked with now for many years. We come back every time we meet someone else, if it's at a dinner or a bar or something, that story tends to come back to me and things, but that's a connection. It's a human connection that really just took the temperature down on the whole thing and made it easier.
Funny, man. I think I spent most of my life trying to be perfect. Really. And I think what I've kind of realized is, holy crap, like it was hard on me and it was hard on everybody else.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't connect with perfect. And you know, it's funny because we talked about this before the show and I put out a post last week and I typed the whole thing by hand. It's the first post I have typed completely by hand in 2 years, Adam. By the time this show comes out, 3 years. I hadn't done it. I hadn't done it in so long because, you know, AI came in and it's like, oh, well, I can use AI to like polish everything up and to make everything sound great. And AI does an incredible job. First off, let me just state, AI will make you sound polished and perfect and great. Humans, we don't connect well with it. Nope. And guess what? When I wrote that post, I guarantee you it had grammar mistakes. It probably had a spelling mistake. But guess what? I literally typed on it, Adam, look, Ma, no hands. I'm not using AI for this post. And dude, it is the most receptive post I have had in all of 2024. The most receptive post I've had all year. No AI, no polish, just Kelly. What is that saying? What is that saying?
To me, it says all the bots that respond to people's social media accounts are tailored to look at human content and respond to. No, I'm just kidding. Not quite. No, I think it needs that. Yeah, when it sounds like a human, you get responses from humans.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
We don't connect with perfection. We don't connect with perfection, right? Like that's
well, and if you try to be perfect, you can't get there. That's an unattainable ideal state that can't exist. So it's going to be painful to watch somebody try to do it and continue to fail and have to sit there and be kind of immersed in that. Just take it down and be real. And it gets easier that way if you just
yeah.
don't expect it of yourself or of others.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been writing content a long time. You know, at this point, you are a content expert. And you know, what are the trends that you're seeing? Obviously, this show is coming out late 2025. We're probably getting closer to 2026 by the time this guy's going out. But you know, talk to me. Obviously, if I would say 2023 was like the advent of AI. You know, when I launched this show, Adam, I hadn't even tried AI yet. Like, no, obviously I had. It's like I didn't know I was using it, right? I didn't know my like email filters were AI or anything like that. But you know, I kind of say AI was the advent of ChatGPT. That's kind of like, I think like the commercialization of us understanding what it is that. I hadn't even used it. I don't think I used ChatGPT for the first 3 months of me launching this show. And then I found it and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. Like, imagine what we're going to be able to do with this thing. And I started using it for content. I started using it to help me write, you know, show notes. Don't get me wrong. Still write my show notes with AI. Would not want to do it in person. There's certain things that it does that are absolutely incredible, but I'm backing off using it on my socials. I'm realizing that it's just getting lost in the mix. It's like, you're not standing out at this point to use AI.
It shocks me that people tout AI as a value proposition when every single person has access to it. How could it be a value prop if everybody has it? It's like saying wearing a shirt is a value proposition. Well, we're all there. So that's zero. It's what you do from there. So, I mean, on the AI point, and I can talk more broadly about content, but AI is, what I've learned about it is, yes, it can be a helpful tool. It can help as a thought partner. So if I've got an idea for an article, I do a good interview, summarize the interview, pull out the five key points from it from your side. I did the same on my notes, compare, you know, here's the outline. Give me 3 versions of this outline and 4 titles. And then you can kind of optimize that with that. And then I like to write everything myself, but then I'll have it review it and edit it. Could you edit this for, grammar, spelling, whatever? But then can you think of a different intros and conclusions are the key. If you lose the intro, they're not going to read the rest of it. If you don't wrap it up right, they're not going to take the step you want them to take. So intros and conclusions for me are absolutely critical. It can be a partner there to help rewrite this in a way that compels the reader to take this step or something like that. So I use it as a partner versus a do this for me. Because then it'll just say in the evolving digital landscape and all this kind of stuff, and it just doesn't get the depth. You have to still add the depth.
Absolutely. There's still absolutely a place for it. You know, I mean, what I'll do too, like if I have like a proposal or a pitch that I need to make, I will put mine in and say, hey, how would you improve it to get this, to come to this outcome? And I think it does do a great job in that. I think, like I said, there's certain things that AI is incredible for. I think structured things where you have to communicate something very, very specifically or technically, it can be really great, especially if you can fact check it, make sure that it's technically right.
That's right.
But I think if the goal here is to create connection with another human, I think we have to toss AI out. I think, and I hate to say that, I really do, because I love using AI. I really do. It has saved me countless time, Adam, especially in the production of the show, especially in creating my show posts or whatever else that I need to go out. I'm not going to lie. I think I'm feeling a little bit sad about the fact that I might not be able to use AI to the extent that I was hoping I was going to be able to. But I'm telling you right now, I have not been able to create the same level of connection through my AI generated content as I have through my Kelly Kennedy generated content.
Yeah. And I've found the same. It's too mechanical. It's kind of too just high level. It doesn't get the depth that you need. And maybe another caveat I might say with it is a lot of people are sensitive to, they don't want their content to be AI. So they'll use AI checkers to see, oh, is this written with AI? And I think we can still tell an AI article or piece or post when we see one. But the danger of that is, for the kind of content I write, it's pretty niche. For, as an example, industrial manufacturing, there might be some segments where I've written a large fraction of the content for that segment. So the AI is going to be checking me against me.
You against you.
And I write kind of formally and I talk formally. So I even got that objection a couple of times, like, well, hey, this is saying AI. I'm like, well, yeah, well, what source articles? Ask it what source articles it looked at. And 3 of mine came up. I'm like, do you see the problem here? So I think it's take it for what it is, but understand that it's just reading what's already there. So you got to understand the landscape, and I wouldn't over rely on it. It's okay to use them, but just consider the source, so to speak.
Yeah. Adam, what are you seeing? We're heading into 2026 in this interview. What are you seeing for the trends for 2026? What do you think? Is it going to change? Is it going to be the same? What do you see?
Well, with a year out, this is sort of like predicting the future. So I'll see it. We'll review it in a year and see if we're right. I see, thought leadership is still critical. That middle of funnel, what are the options available? And getting that deep subject matter expertise as still critical cornerstone kind of content. So what I get a lot of requests for is, can you write me a white paper? I try to get that into, can we develop a content strategy around the point of view of the white paper? The white paper is going to make a technical argument supported with a heck of a lot of data, which ends up then we'll get subject matter input, interview once, write the cornerstone piece, then use that as source content for either some blog series or for social content or for all the, some short form video. Like there's a lot of different ways that you can repurpose it. So the repurposing, distribution, all of that on quality source content, I think is going to be the shift. In addition to short form video, this with subtitles, if volume's on or volume's off, people want to cut to the chase. I think TikTok has really influenced the way we consume content. I'm not a TikTok user, both my kids are, but I see LinkedIn shifting to more like that model. And if that's what we expect to read, then we're going to see more of that because that'll be more effective and rewarded more by the algorithms. So, those are the 2 big ones I see.
Yeah. So you're predicting that, and actually I thought that as well. We talked about it kind of briefly before the show, is I really think there's going to be a massive pivot to authentic video. And the reason being is I actually think it ties back to that huge need for human connection, right? Yes. We're getting AI'd out. I genuinely believe that we are getting AI'd out. And I think that video can be an authentic way to communicate, maybe the most authentic way to communicate. And I think, I think the short form content is actually where it's at. I don't think we want 30-minute long, hour-long videos. I think we want to learn some type of lesson, have some type of motivation in 5 minutes or less, that seems to be the way we're going.
Yeah, and any point of view that we would have, if we can deliver it ourselves, that's going to be more impactful. They're going to hear it in our voice, the way that we think about it. I've had a lot of success with those kind of interview style content pieces, just because if you hear someone's perspective, from them, it just is more clear than if you read it. You could get the inflection wrong, you could get the connotation wrong. So it's way more authentic, and I think you're right. People crave that right now.
Well, and I would say, you've been doing quite a bit of video these days, and I wanted to just chat with you about that because let me tell you, I have struggled with video. And I know people hear that and they're like, dude, you're a podcaster. Like, how do you struggle with video? I don't know, man. I feel it's different, and I have struggled, and I've recorded plenty of videos that never came out because I'm like, I don't want to release this, it's a fear, I think. And I think it's a fear because it's a new medium for a lot of us. A lot of us are learning it. I know audio production like the back of my hand. I don't know video production like the back of my hand, right? It's not a skill that I've spent a lot of time working on. Not to mention, I feel like it's a different level of connection. It's a different level of putting yourself out there. With the show, we're out there in an audio way, right? Like, sure, we share clips from the show. There'll be lots of clips of us, but it's never felt like video. It's never felt like that. Whereas a video speaking direct to your audience really is video. There's no 2 ways of going about it. And I know for people that I've coached with, myself, we're all struggling with how do we embrace video when it's something that has freaked us out. I know for me, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go through the nitty gritty. I'm going to go through that horrible learning process of having to learn how to edit and all that other fun stuff. Thank God I have a little bit of editing skills from doing podcasts, but it's a new thing. For me, I know I'm going to have to run head on. I'm just going to have to face my fears and do it, Adam. But I know there's a lot of people that might be too much to ask. Do you have any advice for how they could maybe tiptoe into video before they have to jump in altogether?
Well, podcasting would be the first thing I would say. I mean, try to get on some podcasts to have a conversation like this is sort of an intermediate video. I'm able to get validation and a response from you to things I say. And that kind of reinforces, I don't know, my perspective and confidence. Like if I say something and I get the immediate reaction I expected or wanted, then things feel more comfortable. With video, you don't get that. So at least get comfortable speaking, get comfortable formulating thoughts and ideas and kind of weaving those together to answer something directly. And then just write some points down for video and practice it. Just record, take the phone and record yourself on there, look at it back, ask others to look at it. Yes, give me the feedback. Let's hear it, good, bad, and different. You know, feedback is a gift, but it's a little painful. So the more you get, the easier it is. But
that's right.
Yeah, try to get on a few podcasts, or if you know it's too difficult or you're too early career, make one up. Just get on a Zoom call with a colleague or a friend or a family member and just have a mock one and just get their feedback. But I think, just seeing yourself doing it, how is it coming off? How is it being received? The quicker you see that, the more you'll know, how you want your style to evolve.
How about for like the editing side? Do you have any advice to like, a person who may want to put out video, but they're not really sure how they should go about editing it? You're putting out some great video. Talk to me. How have you been doing that?
I mean, there are tools out there and there are partners that help do it. So for me, I partnered with a company to help me do that. I kind of worked with them and said, here's my brands, here's what I want these to come off. Here's my style, how I want to be perceived, this technical expert thought leader, but also helpful and human, I think. So that kind of combination. But there are also, I've found cell phone based ones that as a very first step, you can get where they have prompter. I don't have a link or one off the top of my head, but there are ones that have like the words that you want to say. If you write a script, you can upload that. It's on the screen. So you're looking at the screen, but you can also kind of get prompted to do that. So there are plenty of digital tools to do it. And then you can just upload those videos onto a LinkedIn or onto whatever platform you're on. But I am a big believer in especially if your mind tends to go on tangents, which so many of ours do, right? Because how distracted we are. Have at least bullet points to keep you marching for the destination you have. Otherwise, you'll wind up someplace else. So that's especially to start too, as you learn to do the speaking versus writing. That's a great way to help keep things straight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like when I write out all my show plans for my individual shows, that's exactly how I do it, right? I have talking points. I have, maybe 3 to 5 things that I'm going to talk about with each of the major points, and it allows me to stay on track. The nice thing about that though is that I can look down, I can take a break, I can do all sorts of stuff with my podcast that you just can't really do in a video, right? It's interesting for sure, but we're all learning it. I guess my advice to you guys would be, we're all a little afraid. So if you're feeling afraid, I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what to do. Just try it. Just give it a go. Everybody starts out afraid. I'm hoping that by the time you guys are hearing this, that I'm past that fear and I'm putting out tons of great content. But as of this recording, I am still struggling with video, guys. So don't feel bad if you are too. I think that's kind of what I wanted to bring out. And, Adam, you're a business development expert as well. And I just wanted to kind of chat with you. We're talking to a lot of new businesses, a lot of new business owners. And usually it's me giving the business development advice, but today I want you to give the business development advice. So if you're a new business, what are your top 3 recommendations that you would give to help them grow and establish their brand presence?
Make sure you start in the right place, which is with the business goals. I think too often people want to start, they have a new product and they automatically assume that the website needs a complete overhaul and that they need a content program. And you're starting at the end when you don't even really know what the story is that you need to tell. So what are the goals of the business? Start with the financials, because you need the business development efforts to support that. Just as we were kind of chatting before the show, make sure that those are clear so that you can define plans that can deliver those in a way that's reasonable. If it causes you to have hundreds of meetings a month or more, this isn't sustainable and there's a misalignment. So why would you spend a dime on a plan that doesn't have any reasonable chance of success? So that would be the first one, is just understand what the goals are. Are they reasonable? And is this landscape something you can win at? The other one is get as familiar with the kinds of roles within customers that are decision makers. I think so often the people that I work with, especially in marketing, are manager level who, have authority, but they're not the decision maker. So you can do the best job in the world at convincing that person. They've got to take you and move you up the chain without you in the room. So there are ways I've solved that. Loom videos are a great one, just to kind of walk through, if you share a PowerPoint deck or something, just walk through the highlights of that and executive summary in a Loom video that then that contact can share internally. So it's you making that case even asynchronously. But having someone else have to do that, remember what you said, frame it the right way, how you would frame it seems unlikely. So put your customer and your, contact at your customer in the best chance of success by equipping them with the tools that they need. And maybe the third one is to partner with technical experts and commercial salespeople. I look at BD as really the center of the hub. I mean, Kelly, you say you know enough to be dangerous. I want to make us know enough to be effective. So how do we unlock the SMEs? So get familiar with their style, with their approach, with the way that you can get that critical information out of them. But then what can you give sales to help them be effective to close? Because if sales doesn't close, everybody loses. If the SMEs can't get the information out, everybody loses. So BD really is kind of the center point of all of that, to collect that information, frame it in a way to set sales up for success to hit those metrics.
Love that. Love that. Absolutely. You need to have, it's one thing. The BD typically isn't going to close the deal. You're absolutely right. You absolutely need to have the subject matter experts and the salespeople in there to be able to really wrap that thing up. I agree completely. Adam, take me into Ask Consulting. Take me into it, man. You've been doing this, what? We're at 10 years of Ask Consulting, my friend. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's funny. November 27th of 2014 was the birthday of ASK are my initials. So that's amazing. As innovative as I get. But it's worked out because it's sort of like, if you need consulting help, just ask. And there's, cheesy things works. That I can say about that. My kids hate that one. So, hopefully they don't listen. But so 10 years ago. So, I started doing content writing. It was a matter of like, oh, hey, remember that project we did at former employer? Can you write a summary about that? Like I kind of mentioned before, it's sort of doing that. I realized that people would ask me for content with absolutely no strategy behind it. I need a blog post because my competitor wrote one. Mm-hmm. I need to talk about this topic because I heard it at a trade show. That's not a strategy. That's reactive. And being reactive is the wrong way to do it, because you're not going to do it as well as the first one you heard, and you're going to be late. Then I started helping with content strategy. So the last probably 4 to 5 years, I've been helping my clients figure out what to write about, what forms, doing that discovery work for what are the audience pain points, target client personas, and really defining that value proposition. I'm always shocked at how bad companies seem to be at understanding their right to win. Best product, best service. That ain't it. That doesn't work at all. Like, what are the competitive ones? What do customers like about those? What do they hate about them? Is this problem worth solving? Like, you've got to be able to articulate that. And so I started helping businesses with that, with content strategy, but then I realized there was really no business strategy a lot of times behind that. So that's what led to the fractional BD endeavor, is to say, like, I get that you're not really sure your right to win, or you may not have the best technology. Should you quit and go away? No, it's a messaging and a positioning problem. I can help you with that. I would get a lot of this objection. We launched a product and it totally bombed. Great. What market research did you do before you did that? Who did you ask outside your company? Because you've talked yourselves into thinking it's a great idea, but the market doesn't agree. So that's the foundational work that a lot of times an external consultant can help with, because it's a perspective that hasn't been kind of wrapped around itself internally. It's like, I work with 3 other companies like yours, and here's one way to do it that would make you different than them, and kind of having that external partner. So I've seen a lot of value in offering that perspective to come in and say, all right, I get what you want to do in your point of view, but I think we need to sharpen this area, or maybe pivot from this segment to this segment, given the level of competition or, your technology advantage or whatever it ends up being.
I love that too, because actually, I've found in my entire time of doing this show, Adam, I've only spoken with one other value proposition expert. That's crazy, dude. 300 episodes, 2 value proposition experts. And it just shows that, like, it's so critical, but there's so little people out there focused on it.
Well, and I think what I've seen too is the ones that are the most effective, it's often inversely related to how many words it is. If you need a bunch of words and paragraphs to articulate that, you're not clear. And it's okay, because that's the hardest part to get right. There's so much competition. People are leveling up their games. It's good for the consumers, but for us as business owners and fractional leaders, we've got to be able to be sharp and articulate that. And that's why I think writing is such an important strength, to be able to understand what you hear and how to frame that in the right way. But companies just don't get that right now.
Well, I think right now too, and companies are relying on AI. They're kind of feeding it a bunch of data and saying, hey, what's our value? Now, I'm not sure a machine can tell you why a human would value it.
Well, and a machine looking at the existing landscape, I mean, you're going the opposite direction. You need to be looking in between the existing landscape. And I know that AI is good, but that seems like the opposite of what you should do.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's talk about the power of emotion, because in my mind, I think you need to be able to entice emotion to truly create value. Has that been your experience as well?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you don't believe in something, at some level, you're not going to put enough of yourself behind it to have it work. Like my business, I firmly believe in my business's ability to help clients grow and do better. And I love to do it. And when it's done right, it's the most energizing thing in the world.
Yeah.
I think business development as a discipline is that way too. If you like listening to several of your episodes, I was kind of, we were chatting before the show, and I'm out on a walk or a run and I hear some words of inspiration about a topic I'm passionate about, the pace picks up. I start kind of getting excited and wanting to keep going and charge through the wall. So, I mean, I think marketing and BD, if done right, should inspire that emotion in the person you listen to. I mean, I presented last year to a group that was kind of skeptical. They were reluctant to have the meeting. They didn't want to really be there. They were late. They were looking at the watch before. Okay, we only have 30 minutes. Well, 2.5 hours later, we were all standing up kind of around the whiteboard, ideating and innovating. And that, as an engineer and as somebody who wants to help people grow, that's the most energizing experience you could ever have as an outcome. Just getting the buy-in throughout the meeting. You see the tide turn, you see the interest, and people start leaning forward and, well, have you thought about this? And then they're in.
Yeah.
But it was that emotional connection, the why behind what all of this is about in the first place, that did it. And that's a tough thing to get right, because if you want to play on emotion and really highlight that, you need to have it and believe in it, but then also be able to communicate it in a way that doesn't sound inauthentic.
Yeah.
And it's critical. I mean, that's the quickest way to success, is to get somebody excited about what you're talking about.
I'm so thankful that you touched on that specifically. That I'm happy that the BDP has been able to to excite you and get you pumped up, because
Sure.
I realized early on that my biggest struggle when I started BD was my own self-confidence, was my own ability and belief in myself that I could actually accomplish the goal that I was hired to achieve. And I think many of us in BD, at least at one point in our career, and maybe for a lot of our career, we're not completely bought into ourselves. We might be completely bought into the company. We might be completely bought into the product, but our belief internally that we can do it, that's the missing point. And so a big part of the BDP has been, how can I instill confidence? How can I give people that thing that they have inside of them? How can I bring that out? And so hearing you say that, man, it makes it all worthwhile.
Well, yeah, and I think that it's also helpful. I mean, we get compliments throughout our days and years, so keep those. Keep a file of those. Have a bad day file where you can go in and go, LinkedIn testimonials are a great part of that. Like, no, you've done good work for people in the past. And, it's also a good kind of way to see what's the kind of work I should lean into versus move away from. But also just to keep that confidence up, to no, I've done this for people before. Here's how I've helped. Here are some of the results, being able to articulate those results. But I think just for internal confidence too, just to know no, this is working for people. Yeah. Does it work every time? No. Is it perfect? No. But it does work. And, I'm honest and genuine with my approach and the way I want to do things. And, I get to kind of sometimes look into those things and go, yes, I'm glad that I did it, and I'm glad it worked for someone to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Adam, you do business development, you do technical content writing in general. What are some of the other services that you provide?
Those are the big ones right now. So I do I'm calling it fractional BD because I can engage, at a more deep level, content writing and strategy. I also do product development support. So, I mean, with all these patents, my brain thinks in innovation, whether I want it to or not. So a lot of times, clients will want to grow their business, but then I'll get into some of the product discussions and, here's my product. And we'll just get into a natural conversation as engineers about why did you do it this way? And have you thought about doing it another way? So I've helped some clients create other products or services to help differentiate them. Another one recently was a service that, one of my clients had a kind of a lean service that they wanted to do. And it's just more traditional kind of lean principles, but applied in a quicker way for smaller manufacturers. And so that process was unique. It allowed them a look at the business, and it was a way to differentiate from some larger companies that weren't as agile and nimble. So that kind of, new products insights and new service insights, supporting their clients in a different way is something I can help with as well.
Amazing. And you're based in Milwaukee, correct?
Yeah, Milwaukee. So about an hour, almost exactly an hour due north of O'Hare Airport.
Amazing. And obviously you service the entire US if needed. Can you also service like Canada?
I certainly can. My clients, actually, I have more non-US clients at the moment than US. I mean, maybe it's a half and half, but I have clients in Asia. I have clients in Europe. I have worked with Canadian clients in the past, and of course US. So yeah, I mean, as a BD isn't unique to geography, right? So I think it's I'm happy, and I enjoy international collaboration. I love the perspectives. I love talking to people in other parts of the world because I think you can get insulated to points of view and things where you are, but to bring an insight from, well, hey, my client in Europe is doing it this way. Have you thought about that? That's valuable. So I've found that it interests me, of course, to learn about everybody, but also to bring those insights from a global perspective, not just national.
Amazing. And obviously you're on LinkedIn. How else can people get a hold of you?
LinkedIn's the best one. So the Adam-S-Kimmel is the handle. And then my website is askconsultingsolutions.com. And my email is just akimmel@askconsultingsolutions.com. So yeah, always up for engagement, reach outs and further discussion.
Before we end today's show, Adam, I just want to congratulate you. Your content strategy is awesome. Your videos are awesome. What you are doing is awesome. Keep it up, man.
Well, same to you. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Until next time, this has been episode 284 of the Business Development Podcast, and we will catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.
Hey, rock stars, if your fab shop's overwhelmed or your supplier's missing deadlines, that's not just frustrating, it's costing you real money. That's why you call HyperFab. Based in Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada, and trusted across North America, they deliver custom metal fabrication for industries where precision and speed matter most. Construction, oil and gas, manufacturing, and agriculture. From fiber laser cutting and CNC bending to welding, assembly, and finishing, they do it all in-house with fast turnarounds, tight tolerances, and no handoffs. One prototype, full production, no problem. HyperFab shows up when others can't and delivers when others don't. Head to www.hyperfab.com or call Colin Harms at 1-403-308-3308. Fabrication without compromise. That's the HyperFab edge.